What is up, guys? Theocletian here. I got a fun video for you guys. So basically I was talking to this girl, and she was lamenting over the fact that she had just taken some pictures, and to her they seemed pretty bad. And not to be a dick or anything, I told her honestly, one main reason for that is you're so trained at looking at the mirror image of yourself that when you see an image taken from a camera, which is a normal non-flipped version, sometimes it just looks weird to you. So that's why you think you look bad in pictures, right? So to other people, to everyone else in the world, you would look obviously the same because they always see just the natural image, right? But for all of your life, pretty much every morning when you're looking into a mirror, you get that image pounded into your head. And of course, this isn't as big of a problem with people who are highly symmetrical, right? So a lot of actors or actresses, but for most normal people, we get so trained on this one image of ourselves. When we look at some pictures of ourselves, we're almost like, who the hell is that? So at this point, some of you guys might be like, oh man, Theocletian's making things up again, right? But actually they've done plenty of studies around this stuff, and actually one of the more interesting ones was where they had like groups of subjects, boyfriend and girlfriends, and they took pictures of them and of course flipped the images and showed them to each pair of boyfriend and girlfriend. The hypothesis was that, for the person, let's say the boyfriend looking at his own picture, he would pick the mirrored version, whereas the girlfriend, the one who'd be looking at his mug all day long, not through a mirror, she would pick the natural version. And sure enough, the sample sets basically ended up supporting that hypothesis. And it makes sense. I mean, just think about it. In human development, if you're subjected to an image over and over and over again, and there's no major negative feedback from it, it's not like you're looking at your face in a mirror and someone punches you every day. God, I hope that's not how your day starts out. But, if you're just repeatedly exposed to the same image over and over again, especially of yourself, you do form an attachment to that. And then when you see the mirror, or the natural version of it on a picture, sometimes, especially depending on the angle, whatever, sometimes you're like, man, yeah, I really can't even recognize myself. Speaking of mirrors, next time you and your buddies are all drunk, you can play this bet with them, as long as they're not like physicists or some type of trivia expert. But basically how it goes is you'll bet them if you can guess the size of the image of their phone in a mirror from a random distance, that you get to keep their phone. And if it's any other guess, then they get your phone. And how it's going to work is they're going to take a random picture at some whatever distance they want on a bathroom mirror, right? So a completely flat mirror. And then you are going to guess how big that image would look like on the mirror. And of course, it's a 100% shot, because if you think about it, if it's a flat mirror, the image distance is always equal to the object distance. So the actual image of the object stays the same. It's only because when we see things, when we move away from a mirror, obviously everything appears smaller, but the actual image of the object remains the same size. So if your friends are, crazy enough to take you up on this bet, you'll win every single time, because all you have to do is just stand up to the mirror and draw the dimensions of their phone. That's all you need to do without looking at the picture that they've taken. And congratulations, now you have a new phone. So getting back to the problem with the girl's picture, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard this before about how the camera adds 10 pounds, right? And you guys probably know why, but for the purposes of this video, I just wanted to go into that a little. Two main reasons that I can think of in my head right now. First, just being the lighting effect, right? Obviously, the lighting in a picture or even in a video, like this video, it's a lot different from the human eye, what the human eye perceives, right? Especially when you're talking about photographs where there's flash built in. So what that really does is it just kills the shadows. Oh, kids are out. Yay. Oh man, it's always such a good feeling getting out of school. But yeah, so because of the lighting, that definitely distorts the image, a picture image of yourself rather than a natural image that someone else sees of you, right? And second, and probably more importantly, is just the idea of the type of lens, the different types of lenses that cameras can use, and the fact that there's only one of them. Obviously, some cameras have the wide-angle lens that greatly distorts the picture. You can imagine, like GoPro right now, I'm using the fisheye lens. The human eye would not be able to see the world like this, although that would be hella cool. But more importantly than even that, just the fact that the camera only has one lens, and humans obviously have two eyes, or at least most of us do. Sorry if I offended any patch wearers or anything like that. So again, having that stereo vision is important because it gives us the ability to rapidly determine things like, depth of field and stuff like that. So in real life, when we're looking at someone, we can see them in stereo, whereas with a picture of someone, we're still looking at the picture in stereo, but the picture itself is taken in mono. So again, that's why people just look fat. They look flatter, because there isn't that sense of depth. But with there are tricks you can do with the camera, and also how you set up a photo to really give off that illusion of depth of field with just one lens. But it's really hard to pull off, and yeah, so ultimately what I'm trying to say is seeing is not always believing, especially when it's just through one lens. So the last thing I wanted to point out was just the aspect ratio of cameras versus what we see in real life. So this becomes interesting because the human eye, it sees pretty close, if not exactly, I can't remember, pretty much 4:3, right? So that's the native resolution of like most TV shows and stuff like that. Whereas if you watch a lot of movies, you'll be familiar with widescreen, right? So that's 16:9. That's the square of 4:3, right? And this becomes important because if you think about it, evolutionarily speaking, it should be more advantageous to have an aspect ratio closer to a perfect square, right? So 4:4, something like that. Because what that means is for a given diagonal length, right, that you're seeing, a 4:4 would give you the maximum area. And in theory, that should be what evolution would select for, right? But why then are movies typically shot in widescreen, where you actually lose, like, I think it's like over 10%, if you do the math, it's like over 10% of the area you just don't see in widescreen. Well, I'm not sure exactly why they do it. I'm sure it's for like aesthetic purposes. What I do know is if you do stretch out the image like that, first of all, that's not what your eye is trained for, right? So it's not a native resolution. So what that means is you're trained to look for other visual cues to determine the picture. And what I'm trying to say with that is, then in the movies, it kind of makes you pay attention to certain things, like cinematically speaking. Like, for example, if you do like a cinematic shooting of like a large building, right? If you just shoot it in 4:3, you'll see everything else. Well, not everything else, but you'll see a lot more other than the building, right? But with 16:9, your focus will definitely be on the building. Granted, if that's what the director wants you to focus on, that's how he's like panning over the image. He's able to do that. and he's really able to like command your attention in that way. And also in the widescreen format, people tend to look taller, I believe, right? I think that's correct. If you think about how the images work. So, so aesthetically speaking, and oh, one more thing. So 16 to 9 is closer to the golden ratio too, rather than our native 4 to 3. So maybe maybe it is all about looking good, I guess. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So I'm riding over all this gravel here. Try not to faceplant. Remember, seeing's not always believing. And stay tuned for future videos.